Hey there team, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my review of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So we already did a review in progress because of embargoes. I got the key quite late, that's all I could put out at the time. And I was fairly flattering in my first impressions, and I still stand by that, especially in the early hours. This game makes a really nice first impression, and I really enjoyed it, and I truly will remember that as a gamer moment. However, the more hours I put in, the more apparent the issues kind of became, right? The luster comes off, there's a huge pacing problem, right? The game is kind of bloated and drags on too long, which tragically kind of poisons those experiences. So, you know, it's probably the most beautiful game I've ever played, and, you know, there are aspects of the gameplay loop that are fun, but because the game just drags its feet so long, you start to get a little bit bitter at these environs. Anyway, look, let's just back it up real quickly. For those that aren't across it, I'm kind of a reluctant reviewer. We meme about it, but I'm only reviewing because I'm not really happy with reviews as they are in the current space in gaming. Insofar that I don't relate to any of them. I'm just a normal dude. I just want someone to talk to me about a game like a normal dude. I'm not really interested in all these think piece, bloody intellectual types writing essays and, you know, trying to get a Pulitzer Prize. They seem more interested in their writing technique and their wordplay than just talking as one gamer to another gamer. So that's why I'm here, that's why I'm doing this, and it seems that people are kind of resonating with that. I do have one kind of objective rule in that for every $5 that the game charges, I play it for an hour, and then I put it down, right? I don't beat around the bush or anything like that. That's just how it's going to be. This game's going for $100 Australian, which is pretty wild. That's very expensive. For reference, $90 Australian is what a normal AAA costs. So, dear Americans, you know, this is more expensive than the most expensive game usually. But at $100, I would say that that's what 20 hours gameplay. So that's how long I played it for, and that way I can put into the Scarlet List, which is a little initiative we've started up recently. You can check. I'll probably put it in the description for this. Where I'll basically have a ranked list of games that I've used that same review policy for, and then, you know, it's kind of an objective metric, or as objective as one could be in the subjective nature of reviewing games. Anyway, so I played it for 20 hours, and I was happy to put it down. Not only was it becoming kind of bloated and wearing me out there, the gameplay philosophy seems actually malicious. I'm not going to just leave that hanging. Let's talk about that real quick. Okay, so this borrows a lot from Far Cry, but it isn't a Far Cry game. You got to remember it's made by massive studios known for making The Division. And it has a lot of the Division DNA in there, but it's not super overtly obvious because it does present in many ways like a Far Cry game. One of the things about The Division, the gameplay loop is brilliant, but for the most part it is, you know, gunfight versus bullet sponges, right? Which isn't really a Far Cry thing. In Far Cry, you slide around, you combo chain, that sort of stuff, and the way that the gameplay escalates is that it gives you these cool new party tricks, the ability to, you know, grab dudes as hostages, pull out their holstered pistol, throw bloody throwing knives, slide, stab, take down dudes. You get to this point where you end up combo chaining all these really cool takedowns, and you can take out a whole base silently, and like, there's people who put video compilations of doing that. I'm quite proud of it, and it makes you feel cool. It makes you feel competent. The idea of, you know, chaining together all these cool special abilities. That's not in this game. None of that's in this game. There are no takedowns. I mean, you can just go punch humans and they fly because they're tiny, but most of the enemies you fight are the robo bloody mech warrior things, which you can't just one-tap punch. They're bullet sponges. The game, I think, and I only say I think because it's not clear what the game actually wants me to do, even after all these hours. So if you try and play it, but I think that they want you to just have a stand-up fight with a bullet sponge, which is rough because you're not a bullet sponge. You can only take so many hits in a straight fight. So are we supposed to just cheese corners? You know, in a way, does it want me to play like it's The Division in third-person cover? But I'm not in third person, I'm in first person. So trying to play around corner cover is pretty fucking weak. So it's not really clear what they want. Now, you do unlock an ability to pull dudes out of the canopy of their mech, but you have to create a stun condition on the mech, which is actually quite difficult to do. You can try hacking them, but that is really, really fiddly, and the short range, and that's just to create the stuns, and you have to do the whole mini game. But that whole thing, that stalking and doing it, is actually not very fun, and it probably takes a minute, and it's not very engaging. And I can't help but wonder if it's intentionally done so to disincentivize you from doing that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the case, given on what else we're about to discuss. So you can stun state them with a grenade and run up and combo them, and that's the best that I could sort of do to try and fight these dudes cleanly. However, the grenades often will blow up other things, or they'll alert other dudes, so it's very difficult to stay silent. Once you trip the alarm, it's bloody on for young and old, and you can have some pretty cool firefights, but honestly, it becomes overwhelming where they just keep throwing more and more of these canopied bloody robots at you, and you're trying to do this combo chain. Anyway, but let me explain how the escalation works. So, okay, I'm getting into a little bit of a rhythm where I hit the dude with the grenade and punch it out, right? And so what does the game add? The game starts adding sniper little humans on the other side of the map, and you don't have a sniper rifle, and you don't have ADS. Now, I like not having ADS, at least because I think there's an overemphasis on it. You can slight zoom with your guns and all that, but there is a kind of old school, return to monkey kind of vibe about having not ADS on your gun. And then they give you snipers that you can barely see on the other side of the map because you're gigantic and humans are tiny, and they're one-tapping you or two-tapping you. Very hard to see, and you don't have a weapon to counterfight them. And this all happens right after you've basically trained yourself to front fight and stun, take down these canopied bloody mech warriors. So at first you're like, okay, sure. But you start getting these creeping feelings that this mechanic seems a little bit kind of mean. Kind of seems malicious, It's like trying to punish you for having fun. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Okay, cool. Next step is they start deploying mechs that are invulnerable to stuns and canopy punches. So now you can't take them down that way. So it takes away that tool that you're clearly doing. And to me, it seems very obvious to me. I could be wrong. But it seems obvious that in their playtesting, they discovered that this is what people were gravitating towards. And instead of tweaking the gameplay mechanic, they would just introduce dudes that nullify, stop having fun, take away the toys, right? Maybe you're overthinking it, Scarlet. Maybe I am. But let's give some more examples. You get your Ikran, which is your bird thing you can fly around on, which is pretty cool. I named mine bloody Carol because I don't know why the game gave me that option, but I bet you 90% of the player base names theirs Carol. If it had Karen, I would have picked that. All the other ones seemed relatively tribal and normal, but then you had fucking Carol. Yes, insta-pick. Then I started taking on bases with my bird. And it seems that the AI, for whatever reason, they just have a bloody brain fart, or maybe my bird can tank it or something, but the bases immediately became trivially easy to fight with my bird. And so I did. Of course I did. Within 15 minutes of me figuring that out, the next step in the game, they put AA turrets on all the bloody bases. And it's not like it's a cool mini game where you can, I'm wiggling around in my chair, where you can like dodge with your bird or anything like that. No, they just lock on and fucking obliterate you like AA flak cannons. They basically take the bird off you. So they give you this mechanic. The mechanic's quite strong and kind of fun, and then they immediately punish you for using it and take it away. Are we sensing a theme? Maybe. And then I'm fighting through a big base, terrible pacing as well, by the way. At 15 hours, I start fighting a sub-boss finale or something like that, like an Act 1 finale of a boss that was never mentioned or anything like that, and you see her through vid screens, and it's just, I know I'm getting off track real quick, but the narrative is just non-existent. That's the weirdest thing. You're out there bonding with all these tribes, and that's really cool. However, the actual overarching narrative just doesn't really exist. There's a bad guy who stole you when you were a child and that sort of stuff, but it's not like you have this heated revenge quest. He's an antagonist that turns up randomly on occasion. You're not even like trying to unite the tribes for the resistance. You do some things for the tribes and they're like, oh, maybe we'll join the resistance, and the resistance is like, oh, okay, cool. It's all very flippant, and it has this weird, just loose, reactive quality to it, to the fact where there is no narrative. There is no objective or anything like that. Anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit there. So you go in and you do this big base assault. And then I figured out pretty quickly, because they took all my favorite toys off me, I figured out really quickly that the shotgun is broken. There is like a gear tiered system that you can use, and the game was telling me, it had all these warnings everywhere saying stop using the shotgun, it's too low level for where you're at. Shotgun gonna shotgun, it still does 1 billion damage to someone's face. So no matter how much of this gear scaling RPG stuff, which at first I enjoyed, but I grew to hate when I realized it was a lie, I was in the base and they were sending billions of mech warriors at me that I just would start fighting on corners with a shotgun until the mech walked up to me and I shoot it 3 times in the face and kill it, right? Reload, shoot the next one. You know what they started sending then? Right when I figured all that out, they started sending flamethrower dudes. So then I started to try and grenade canopy them to stun them out. And then, 5 more minutes later, oh no, they're invulnerable to that. It almost feels like if it was in real time, I'd be impressed that it would be an evolving AI trying to evolve to my mechanics. But no, it's very clear on like 5 different examples that I've given you. The game knows the way that I'm going to try and play and try and have fun and try and engage with what little of the loop you've given me. And every time that you seem to stray outside the line of just stand and fight in the middle of the open, the game immediately seems to punish you and take away the mechanics. Doesn't give you anything new to do, not without bloody putting in AA turrets or anything like that. So anyway, that was just frustrating. It was really frustrating. It's one thing having a boring kind of non-engaging narrative, because these guys are the ones that did the Division. Division, again, brilliant world design, environmental design. What's the story in Division? Fucking no one knows. No one really cares either, because they're just chirping crap in your ear and that, but you're too busy running around grinding, having a great time because the loop is addicting as crack. The story is not why you play the Division. And what we've got here is, yeah, okay, it looks like Far Cry, but they've brought a lot of that same Division DNA over, but they forgot to make the gameplay loop good. That's the real problem here. And then all of a sudden you take that out, the story kind of has to carry it a bit harder. And the setting of this as well, you're not sitting in Discord with a bunch of boys just grinding Dark Zone or anything like that. You're sitting on your own listening to the narrative, and the narrative's just kind of weak, kind of bland. I don't want to bash it too hard, but look, I want to go back full circle and just say, the environmental design is really, really good. I really, really like that. I enjoyed the world building immensely. All the different tribes that you go and meet are really interesting. My favorite tribe is like the Milkman tribe, as I called them, because everyone's blue and everyone looks the same. And, some of the characters have interesting developments and you can tell them apart, but that's kind of unique and rare. And don't even get me started on the humans, bloody just dumb. They're the blandest things. Some dude died trying to save the day and I'm like, who? Like, I don't know who any of them are because they're all boring. And, I'll throw some real spice in here. At least the homogenous blue dudes that look all exactly the same, it seems like the character development team are like, oh, maybe we have to put some effort into making it so people can tell them apart because they look all the same. So, some of the Avatar dudes, the Pandorans or whatever they are, they're kind of, you can tell them apart a bit because some effort has been put into actually developing them as characters with personalities. Whereas back in the human base, they're all just identical, bland, boring people. I don't know any of their names or anything like that. But you know what makes them different? This dude's brown. This chick's an Asian. This dude's got a hyphenated Asian surname. That guy's got a turban. Don't forget him. He's cool. You've got all the different colors of skin tone, and one white chick. But apparently that's enough. So we can make those characters bland and boring and exactly the same. But if they all have different color skin, that's enough of character trait. It's actually kind of tragic. It's actually kind of racist. But yeah, at least the blue characters all being exactly the same and looking exactly the same, they made some effort to make them stand apart. Anyway, that was just a quick aside. What I was going to say is the Milkman tribe. I love them so much. Just to wrap up on a good note. So the idea is that there's these giant cows as big as houses. And they roam the plains, they graze, and then they sort of pseudo-hibernate. They lie down on the ground for 6 months and just stay there. And then this tribe of dudes that are just jacked up and on their bloody, on that milk, gotta get me that house cow milk. Like, they go and follow these dudes around, and when they're sleeping they're not sort of sleeping, they just lie there for 6 months. These pricks build tents and that around them and make villages around these giant bloody milk boys. And then they just drink their milk for 6 months and then when the dude moves, they move their bloody city with them. And they all get hopped up on this milk, and they do this dance fighting as well. They beat the crap out of each other, jacked on milk. It's the most oorah bloody clan ever. I think that's really cool and really unusual and interesting. So there is world development and world building I don't want to call it static, but it is the background standing out as wonderful. But as soon as they put characters in front of the camera, as soon as they put narrative front and center, and as soon as they even have meta progression, the problem with this entire studio seems to be the officer class. All the people at the top telling the dudes at the bottom what to do. The dudes at the bottom are working bloody overtime, making great art assets, making great worlds, that sort of stuff. It's the direction that's all over the place. Anyway, so that's my review from it. It's a tentative recommendation. I did enjoy my time with it, right? It didn't turn to absolute ash where I hated everything about it. But I tell you what, at 20 hours, like I don't want to go back to it. I've had my time with it. I've enjoyed the merits of it. But my God, there is just some fundamental directional problems in that it's directionless. And this is not something that can be patched or fixed. And the real tragedy is, I'd love to see some more of the regions and some of the new biodiversity, but I'm not going to grind for another 10 hours of mediocre story and fetch quests and memes just so I can see some new plants, albeit they would be the best part of the game. And that's not the fault of the dudes that designed the cool plants and animals, that's the fault of the directors. So that's my takeaway, that's my thoughts. Do with it what you will. Oh geez, where would I put it on the bloody Scarlet seed thing? Hang on, give me a sec. I am going to put Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, in 7th slot, 7 out of 14, under dotage, and above Steam World Build. It was good, it was great. And if you listen to my first 5 hours with it or something like that, you would have thought I was going to put it at number 1 or close to it, and I might have, to be honest. But, this game couldn't get out of its own way, and so we're putting it down there. So yeah, it was a good experience, but it's not my top recommendation at the moment, not even close. Anyway team, might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.